In a warehouse, a worker stands in a marked walkway, completely absorbed by his phone. Meanwhile, a tugger train approaches from behind. The driver initiates a turn, causing the trailing carts to swing wide and collide with the distracted worker, knocking him to the ground. This incident is a lesson in mutual responsibility and situational awareness. Pedestrians must always be aware of their surroundings, especially around mobile equipment, and operators must ensure their path is clear before turning. Inside a factory, two workers are performing maintenance within a robotic cell, apparently having bypassed the safety gates. One worker leans over a component just as the large robotic arm activates unexpectedly. The arm swings around and crushes the man's head and upper body against a fixed part of the machinery. This is a horrific example of why bypassing safety interlocks is forbidden. Proper lockout and tagout procedures are the only way to safely service robotic equipment, guaranteeing all energy sources are isolated before entry.
City Street. A passenger exits a parked car and steps directly into the path of oncoming traffic without looking. A moving car strikes him at speed. This tragic event serves as a basic but vital reminder.
At a car wash, a woman is cleaning her vehicle, which is parked on an inclined ramp without wheel chocks. The car suddenly begins to roll backward. The woman attempts to stop it, but is tragically caught and crushed between the moving vehicle and a wall. This incident underscores the absolute necessity of securing a vehicle on any incline. Always engage the parking brake and use wheel chocks to prevent unintended movement, especially when working around the vehicle. On a highway, a tanker truck begins emitting a thick cloud of orange smoke, signaling a dangerous chemical reaction. The driver pulls over, exits the cab, and climbs directly on top of the tanker to inspect the leak, exposing himself to the toxic fumes. Suddenly, the pressure builds, and a massive plume of gas erupts. When dealing with hazardous materials, the primary rule is to evacuate and establish a safe perimeter. Never approach a leaking or reacting chemical tanker. Immediately contact emergency services. What appears to be a dye works or processing facility, men are working around large ground-level vats filled with steaming, boiling liquid. The work area is wet, cluttered, and lacks any protective railings around the open vats. One worker brings a bucket to the edge of one vat. He pours the contents into the vat, triggering an immediate and violent eruption. A huge cloud of steam or a splash of boiling liquid erupts, knocking him off his feet and directly into the scalding contents. His co-workers react in a panic, rushing to his aid and desperately trying to pull him from the vat. This tragedy highlights multiple failures. First, the violent reaction suggests a dangerous chemical mix or adding a liquid to a much hotter one, causing it to flash boil. Second, the complete lack of guardrails around open vats of hazardous liquid is a critical safety violation. Inside another paper mill, a worker stands on a bench next to a machine with large rollers, attempting to manually feed a sheet of starter paper into the mechanism. This forces him to place his hands extremely close to the dangerous in-running nip point. As he guides the paper, his hand is caught by the rollers. The machine, designed to pull with immense force, relentlessly drags his arm and then his entire body into the spinning drums. A co-worker on an upper level sees the accident and frantically runs to an emergency stop button, but the damage is already done. Manually feeding material into live rollers is an exceptionally high-risk activity. This process should be automated or performed using specialized tools that keep the operator's hands far away from the nip points. On a narrow city street, two men are walking next to a building. A third man on the sidewalk tries to warn them, but it's too late. High above, a poorly secured pallet of heavy bags, likely at a construction site, slips from its position. The entire load plummets to the ground, landing directly on top of the two pedestrians and burying them instantly. All overhead work, especially lifting operations, requires the area below to be completely cordoned off to prevent anyone from entering the drop zone. Inside a brightly lit beauty salon, clients are receiving treatments while an employee works at a shelf. The calm is shattered in an instant as a large truck, having lost control on the street outside, smashes through the glass storefront. The vehicle plows deep into the salon, sending debris flying and narrowly missing the terrified occupants who scramble for safety. This shocking incident is a reminder that even indoor spaces can be vulnerable to external traffic hazards, especially those located at street level. In a cluttered workshop, a man works near a large machine with an exposed, rapidly rotating flywheel. He's wearing a loose, untucked shirt, a critical mistake around this type of equipment. As he moves past the machine, the back of his shirt is snagged by the flywheel. He is instantly whipped around with incredible violence, spinning in the air as the machine wraps his clothing tighter and tighter around the axle. His co-workers rush in a panic to shut off the power, but the momentum continues to spin him violently. This is a textbook example of why loose clothing is forbidden around rotating machinery. It can be grabbed in an instant, leading to horrific injuries or death. All flywheels and drive shafts must be properly guarded. This onboard footage from a city bus captures the driver navigating through traffic. A passenger stands near the front, talking on the phone. Without warning, a vehicle from the oncoming lane swerves directly into the bus's path, resulting in a devastating head-on collision. The impact is catastrophic, shattering the windshield and sending the passenger flying violently forward. The aftermath shows the complete destruction of the bus's front end. This is a brutal reminder of the immense forces involved in high-speed collisions and the importance of defensive driving and constant vigilance on the road. Inside a mobile MRI trailer, a technician is in the control room while an elderly patient using a metal walker is brought into the scanning room. As the patient gets close to the MRI machine, its powerful magnetic field suddenly activates, violently pulling the walker and the patient with it into the machine. This is a terrifying illustration of a fundamental MRI safety rule. No metallic objects are allowed near the machine while it is operational. Strict screening protocols are mandatory to prevent such a dangerous event. At a tire repair shop, a group of mechanics is gathered around a large truck tire that is being inflated. Without warning, the tire fails and explodes with devastating force. The blast wave throws the men violently in all directions. This type of catastrophic failure is a known risk with high-pressure tires. To prevent injury, such tires must always be inflated inside a reinforced safety cage, which is designed to contain the explosive force. An industrial worker performs hot work near large storage tanks. The sparks suddenly ignite flammable vapors in the area, causing a massive explosion. This highlights the critical need for hot work permits, which require testing the atmosphere for flammable gases and clearing the area of combustibles before starting. A brightly decorated truck becomes stuck while attempting to cross a set of railway tracks. Several people on the ground notice the impending danger as a train approaches at high speed. Despite their frantic attempts to signal, there is not enough time for the train to stop. The locomotive collides with the truck, obliterating it in an instant. This tragic incident is a stark reminder to never stop a vehicle on a railway crossing for any reason. In a snowy industrial yard, a team uses a crane to position a large structural beam onto a truck. During the maneuver, the lifting slings suddenly detach, and the beam experiences an uncontrolled descent onto the vehicle's flatbed. Rigorous pre-lift inspection of all rigging components, including slings and attachment points, is essential. Establishing and respecting a clear drop zone, free of all personnel, is a fundamental rule for any overhead lifting operation. In an alleyway, one individual works on a forklift while others are nearby. An attempt to use manual force as a counterweight causes the forklift to become unstable and tip forward unexpectedly. Heavy machinery should never be subjected to forces or uses outside of its design specifications. Proper training ensures operators understand the principles of vehicle stability and load balance. A worker tends to materials at the end of an automated production line in a factory. Without warning, a mechanical issue causes a large panel to be ejected from the machine at high velocity. This scenario highlights the importance of properly installed machine guarding and safety sensors. Maintaining a safe operational distance and being aware of potential ejection zones are key defensive practices. An operator is feeding materials into a large, powerful industrial press. The operator's hands enter the point of operation as the machine begins its cycle, requiring a rapid reaction to move clear. When working with industrial presses, always use tools to handle materials and keep hands away from moving parts. Two-hand activation controls and light curtains are critical engineering controls that prevent such close calls. At a busy port, a large forklift operates near a pedestrian walking through the active work zone. The forklift operator, maneuvering in reverse, does not see the pedestrian walking directly in the vehicle's blind spot, leading to an unexpected contact. Creating clearly marked and physically separated walkways for pedestrians is crucial in any area with vehicle traffic. For operators, confirming a 360-degree view and using horns and spotters when visibility is limited prevents these situations. A tanker truck is parked in a loading yard while a forklift works nearby. A sudden and powerful release of energy occurs at the rear of the tanker. The handling of volatile substances demands strict safety protocols, including the complete elimination of all potential ignition sources from the surrounding area. A forklift transports a heavy, seemingly unbalanced load while a ground guide walks alongside it. The load shifts, becomes unstable, and tips off the forks in the direction of the guide. Loads must be centered, stable, and secured before transport. Ground personnel must always maintain a safe distance and never walk under or directly beside a suspended or moving load. Inside an auto repair shop, a technician uses a handheld tool to perform work on a large metal drum. The work creates conditions that cause a sudden and forceful pressurization event inside the drum. Never cut, grind, or perform any hot work on sealed containers or barrels. Even if presumed empty, residual vapors can create a highly volatile environment. Such tasks require specialized procedures, including thorough cleaning and ventilation. In a production facility, a worker manages material being fed into a large industrial roller machine. As he guides the material, his arm is drawn toward the machine's in-running nip point, creating a hazardous situation that requires the immediate assistance of his coworker. This demonstrates the critical need for effective machine guarding that creates a physical barrier at all points of operation. Wearing close-fitting clothing and receiving comprehensive, machine-specific safety training, are also essential preventive measures. A team of mechanics performs maintenance underneath the raised component of a large vehicle in a workshop. The hydraulic system supporting the heavy component experiences an issue, causing the part to lower unexpectedly. Never work under a heavy load, supported only by hydraulics. Always use properly rated and positioned mechanical locks, jacks, or blocking to physically secure the load before beginning any maintenance. This ensures stability even if a hydraulic failure occurs. In an outdoor scrap yard, a worker begins using a cutting torch on a large, sealed metal tank. Several other people are nearby. The heat from the torch causes a powerful and sustained energetic release from the tank, creating a large fire that engulfs the immediate area and involves the worker. This is a critical safety lesson. Sealed containers must never be cut or welded. They can contain flammable residual vapors that can lead to a catastrophic event when an ignition source is introduced. Proper identification, ventilation, and cleaning of such objects by trained professionals are required before any processing. Workers are on the flatbed of a truck, preparing to receive a large bundle of metal pipes being lifted by a crane. The rigging used to lift the bundle gives way, causing the entire load to have an uncontrolled descent onto the truck bed where the workers are standing. The area directly beneath a suspended load is one of the most hazardous places on a job site. All personnel must remain clear of the drop zone until the load is securely landed and disconnected. A worker stands on a flatbed trailer to unstrap a load of heavy metal frames. As the final strap is released, the unsecured load becomes unstable and one of the frames slides off the side of the trailer. Unloading should be done in a planned sequence that maintains the stability of the remaining items. It's vital to assess how removing one restraint will affect the rest of the load, and to always have a clear exit path. In a storage warehouse, a truck carefully navigates around large stacks of steel coils. A person on foot walks through the same area. The driver, whose view is obstructed by the vehicle's frame and the surrounding materials, is unaware of the pedestrian's presence, and the truck's movement results in contact. Awareness of vehicle blind spots is critical for both drivers and pedestrians. High visibility vests, clear communication protocols, and maintaining eye contact with operators help ensure everyone is seen and safe. At a residential construction site, a crane is used to lift a large sack of material from a truck, while several people are gathered nearby. The lifting sack tears open mid-air, and the contents are released unexpectedly over the people and work area below. All lifting gear, including bulk bags and slings, must be inspected for damage and rated for the weight of the load. Most importantly, an exclusion zone must be enforced directly below any overhead lifting operation, ensuring no one is ever in the potential drop path. At a rustic outdoor lumber mill, a worker in a red cap is feeding logs into a wood veneer peeling machine. The machine features large, powerful, and completely unguarded rotating drums. The operator pushes a log into the machine, but as it's pulled in, his gloved left hand follows too closely. Instantly, the rollers grab the glove and yank his entire arm into the crushing mechanism. He is trapped and in agony as his co-workers frantically rush to his aid, struggling to figure out how to stop or reverse the powerful machine before it's too late. This is a brutal example of an unguarded nip point. All rotating machinery must have physical guards that prevent any part of a worker's body from reaching the danger zone. Furthermore, using a push stick would have kept his hands at a safe distance. Inside a massive industrial plant, a worker stands on an elevated platform, positioned dangerously close to a large, rapidly spinning and completely exposed drive shaft. He appears to be performing some sort of task or inspection near the powerful mechanism. In a horrifying instant, A piece of his clothing is snagged by the shaft. With terrifying speed and force, he is violently pulled from his feet, wrapped around the shaft, and becomes part of the rotating mass. The incident is over in seconds. This shows why exposed rotating shafts are one of the most unforgiving industrial hazards. They must always be completely enclosed in a safety guard. Inside a machine shop, an operator leans deep into the work area of a large industrial milling machine to make an adjustment, placing his head and torso directly in the path of the tool head. It appears he failed to properly shut down the machine first. Suddenly, the machine cycles. The massive milling head descends with immense force, crushing him against the workpiece below. This tragic event is a direct consequence of bypassing safety protocols. Lockout-tagout procedures are mandatory for a reason. They ensure a machine is completely de-energized before any maintenance is performed. On a narrow city street, two men are walking next to a building. A third man on the sidewalk tries to warn them, but it's too late. High above, a poorly secured pallet of heavy bags, likely at a construction site, slips from its position. The entire load plummets to the ground, landing directly on top of the two pedestrians and burying them instantly. All overhead work, especially lifting operations, requires the area below to be completely cordoned off to prevent anyone from entering the drop zone. Inside a brightly lit beauty salon, clients are receiving treatments while an employee works at a shelf. The calm is shattered in an instant as a large truck, having lost control on the street outside, smashes through the glass storefront. The vehicle plows deep into the salon, sending debris flying and narrowly missing the terrified occupants who scramble for safety. This shocking incident is a reminder that even indoor spaces can be vulnerable to external traffic hazards, especially those located at street level. In a cluttered workshop, a man works near a large machine with an exposed, rapidly rotating flywheel. He's wearing a loose, untucked shirt, a critical mistake around this type of equipment. As he moves past the machine, the back of his shirt is snagged by the flywheel. He is instantly whipped around with incredible violence, spinning in the air as the machine wraps his clothing tighter and tighter around the axle. His co-workers rush in a panic to shut off the power, but the momentum continues to spin him violently. This is a textbook example of why loose clothing is forbidden around rotating machinery. It can be grabbed in an instant, leading to horrific injuries or death. All flywheels and drive shafts must be properly guarded. This onboard footage from a city bus captures the driver navigating through traffic. A passenger stands near the front, talking on the phone. Without warning, a vehicle from the oncoming lane swerves directly into the bus's path, resulting in a devastating head-on collision. The impact is catastrophic, shattering the windshield and sending the passenger flying violently forward. The aftermath shows the complete destruction of the bus's front end. This is a brutal reminder of the immense forces involved in high-speed collisions and the importance of defensive driving and constant vigilance on the road. At a construction site, several workers are standing on top of a newly constructed, unbraced masonry wall. A powerful gust of wind suddenly hits the tall, unstable structure. The wall acts like a sail, and it cannot withstand the lateral force. The entire section collapses, sending the workers plummeting several stories to the ground below amidst a cascade of bricks and scaffolding. This is a tragic failure in construction sequencing. Tall, thin walls must be properly braced against lateral forces like wind until the full structure is completed and can provide support. Two men are attempting to move a large, top-heavy commercial refrigerator or vending machine. They are using an improper method, trying to slide and pivot it by hand without proper equipment like a dolly or pallet jack. As they maneuver the appliance, its high center of gravity causes it to become unstable. It begins to tip over, and one of the men is unable to get out of the way. The incredibly heavy machine falls directly on top of him, crushing him against the floor. Moving heavy and tall objects requires careful planning and the use of appropriate mechanical aids to prevent them from tipping over. During nighttime road construction, a worker in a high-visibility vest walks near a large wheeled excavator. The operator begins to swing the machine's cab to reposition it. The worker is standing in the excavator's massive blind spot. As the cab rotates, the heavy counterweight swings around and pins the unsuspecting man against a stack of concrete barriers, crushing him. Swing radius accidents are a common and deadly hazard. Ground personnel must never enter the swing radius of an excavator without first getting confirmation from the operator that they have been seen. Inside a workshop, two men are performing maintenance on a large industrial machine. They are positioned directly underneath a heavy, suspended component of the apparatus. It appears the component was either improperly supported or the lifting mechanism failed. Suddenly, the entire assembly gives way and collapses downwards, crushing both workers beneath its immense weight. This is a fatal violation of a primary safety rule. Never work under a suspended load. Heavy components must be physically secured with certified blocks or safety stands before any personnel are allowed to work underneath them. In a chaotic street intersection, a pedestrian begins to cross the road. At the same time, a wheeled excavator makes a turn, its operator's view obstructed. The operator does not see the pedestrian, and the front of the heavy machine strikes her, knocking her to the ground. Continuing its turn, the operator, still unaware of the collision, drives directly over her. Heavy equipment operating in public spaces poses an immense risk.